Hi, welcome to In Conversation. I'm your host, Mark Anthony. Most of you who know me might be seeing me wearing this shirt and be asking, hey dude, what's up? Don't you have another shirt? Well, what you don't know is that it's one of my favorite shirts that I wear all the time. And the reason why I do it is because some people might say we have addictions. On tonight's episode, we'll be talking about that same topic, addiction. And with me is my friend and co-host, Miss Nadi Prasad. Nadi, welcome to In Conversation.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate it. I'd like to get into a little bit of statistics about the drug use in America. 13.5 million people in the world use some form of opium-type drug. And of those 13 million, 9.2 million of those use heroin. As a society, one of the greatest challenges we face is the abuse of highly addictive substances. There has been a resurgence in recent years of heroin use in the United States, in our streets and in our homes and in our place of work and even in our schools. Due to the cheap cost of heroin these days and in the economic times we've recently endured, Americans have become frugal, if you will, about their choice of drugs. Heroin is about $4 a piece, based on the numbers last reported. If you want to know how accessible it is for you to get high right now, well, you don't have to go down a dark street corner anymore. You can actually go on the internet and make an order and have it delivered to your front door. Or so I'm told. Without a doubt, drug abuse, regardless of its form, crosses over social, racial, and economic boundaries. There is no discrimination here. We are all loved and treated equally by drugs. When it comes to the love affair we have with what heals us and what explodes our minds all at once, the use of heroin has gone up 75% from 5 years ago, and it's growing. Keep in mind these numbers are only what is reported. There are many cases that will never be known and obviously never reported. Compared to a decade ago, around 2003, heroin was at its all-time low. Other types of drugs took the lead at that time. Drugs like ecstasy, crystal meth, and prescription drugs were the drugs of preference. Although heroin represents a small fraction of the nearly 24 million Americans who misuse drugs collectively, heroin is growing faster than all of those forms of drugs. Our moms are using heroin. Our sisters and our daughters are using. Our sons are using heroin. Every town in mainstream America is doing heroin. This is completely an underground, behind closed doors demon. No one talks about it, but today we are hoping to shed some light on this very dark and lonely place that some people live in. In our Caribbean, West Indian immigrant communities, drug use is even more behind closed doors. We have not been spared, though. Lethal drugs and drug-related deaths have been in our homes, in our streets, and in our schools. The problem is, one of the problems we've had is that we are from a closed-minded, closed-mouthed sort of culture. We're always trying to hide the truth. We do not discuss openly these ugly facts that live in our homes. We don't want people talking about us. We care more about what people think of us. Our reputation seems to be more important than the challenges we're facing in this fairly new immigrant land that we live in. This is one reason that we get so little funding in our communities for issues like domestic violence, shelters for abused women, drug abuse, and alcohol abuse. We see our drunks on the street corner, and we all know or we live with a drunk, but we turn our faces unless it directly affects us. And even when it's that dark secret, there is a shame and a guilt that supersedes logic and even our good sense. And the need to ask for help when we need it is hard in our community. Our judgment of each other is cruel and it's unforgiving in many ways. In the meantime, our children and even our grown adults are navigating a world filled with drugs that they have no real tools to help them with. Today, we are trying to shed some light on this dark and taboo issue of drugs. And I am honored to have with me a woman who I personally have enormous admiration for, an always recovering woman who will walk us through her very personal journey. This is a true warrior who has walked in the shadow of death and beyond. I'd like you to welcome my friend Chitra Singh. Welcome, Chitra.
Thank you, Nadia.
Chitra, I know that this is an issue that is very personal to you, and I will try so hard to respect all the boundaries that surrounds this issue that you've had. But let's start at the beginning of your journey. Tell me a little bit about where you were born, where you grew up.
Well, I was born in Guyana, South America, and I'm from Georgetown. And I grew up in a very wonderful family. You know, my family have always been in the arts and in some sort of way of, you know, progress for our people. So my mother and father, we had 8 siblings, 5 boys and 3 girls. And there was a lot of domestic violence in my family growing up. Very dislocated family in many ways. My mother was an abused woman, and so were we, all of us. So it was, you know, I don't want to go into the domestic violence because, you know, a lot of people know about it. But, you know, it was the beginning of, you know, the journey.
Yeah. So you're in Ghana, you were born there, you're living with your family, you have siblings, and there's some issues in your family, like every other family, I'm assuming. What was it like in Ghana? When did you actually became aware that there were you ever involved in drugs in Ghana at all?
Never. Growing up, you know, we did a lot of healthy things, even though our family was dysfunctional. We were very active in social causes and very productive. And, you know, I was in the arts. Both my parents were in the arts. So with this violent lifestyle, this behind the door life, there was also this other world of art that was very strong. So there were 2 worlds we lived in. Both my parents were talented people. My mother's a writer and a playwright. My father was an actor and an intelligent man. So there were these 2 worlds existing, and thank God there was the world of art, because without that, I don't know if I'd be sitting here today talking to you. I didn't experience drugs until I knew about marijuana as a teenager growing up, but you know, we were pretty healthy. Guyana was a pretty clean country to live in at the time, except for alcohol, of course, which is accepted by our country as a, you know, you could drink until you get drunk. It was normal. The more you drank, the stronger you were, we thought. But not until I came to New York, I started to explore. You know,
so in Ghana, you experimented with nothing?
Nothing at all.
Okay.
Actually, yes, I did drink.
You drank a little bit?
Let me backtrack a little bit, yeah. Okay. I did used to sneak alcohol and drink, but never, you know, like a lot. I wouldn't go out and order beer, or I wouldn't go to a party and drink beer. But when my parents had parties, I'd always steal a little glass of XM rum.
Right, right, of course. It's a cultural thing, right? It was acceptable, like you said.
Yeah.
So at what point, how old were you when you left Ghana?
I was 16.
16.
I was a very young girl, yeah.
And you came to New York?
I came straight to New York. And I came straight to my father's home. You know, my father had left Guyana, and we had lived without him for quite a few years. So there was that sort of serenity in our family because the violence was not there. So for me now, I came from, you know, growing up as, you know, I'm a teenager, I'm exploring all my emotions and my thoughts, and then I come here and I'm right back where I started, you know, in my father's home, and the violence began again, yeah.
So you're here in New York. It seems like there was a break in Ghana where you sort of, your dad wasn't there.
No.
And there was a peace that you were experiencing. And then to migrate, you had to come and live with him.
Yes.
Out of necessity, I'm guessing. Are your siblings with you at this point?
Yeah, we're all together. There are 5 of us that arrived at the same time. And, you know, at the time, you know, we were still teenagers. You know, you don't think of these things that, oh my God, you're right back where you started. Now I reflect, I see it, but you know, and then coming to New York was it was exciting for me.
I'm sure. I'm
Yeah.
sure it was helpful to know that your
Yeah.
your siblings were there
Oh,
as
yeah.
well, right?
Yes.
To help you to navigate this new world.
Yes.
So you're in New York, you're 15, 16 years old, and you're trying to understand your place here. Tell me about when it was the first time that you decided to experiment with, what was the drug at the time?
The first drug was marijuana, and this was in the mid-70s, you know, it was, everybody was smoking. And I started exploring my music a lot more too. So everyone said, hey, you know, you need to smoke a joint. And then, you know, you had the whole movement in the West Village, in the Greenwich Square and stuff like West 4th. And we would go down there with our guitars and we would get high. And, you know, I started meeting a lot of different people, a lot of artists, a lot of people of different backgrounds and cultures. And I ventured out from the family. I made my first step, you know. We always, in immigrant families, we stay. You know, we go to work, we come home, we stay with the family, we stay in the community, it's safe, we know it. You know, you close the door, you know, your father beating or your mother beating you, that's all, you know, nobody
Behind
knows.
closed doors, you're
doors.
isolated.
But once you venture out and you go into mainstream America, that's a whole different ball game. And I was always like that. I was always adventurous. I did not want to stay locked down in a family. So I started to really venture out and explore the music world and stuff. And that's where I encountered the casual use of drugs.
So you're playing your music, which is wonderful, and you are now getting high. How is that feeling? What is this high feeling like with marijuana?
Well, it was a social drug. I mean, you had parties, you had people smoking, you know, I don't know if anybody remembers the bong, right? You know, so it was, and the music at the time.
So it was a creative...
It was a creative environment. It was music, it was guitars, it was listening to Stevie Wonder, Key of Life album, which was like one of the most amazing albums. It was exploring all the new R&B music, all the rock and roll and all the new artists coming out. So it was more of a, it wasn't, you know, it was creative, or at least I thought it was. And I didn't think it was a danger. And I thought it was a beautiful thing.
So you're functioning, you're smoking when you're playing your music.
Yeah.
As a family, does your family know that you are engaging in cannabis and weed?
Yeah. Well, some of the family members were smoking too. You know, I have a brother that's passed away, and he was a painter, and we spent many a nights, you know, while he was painting, I'd be playing my guitar, and you know, we'd be smoking. Yeah.
Are you working at this point?
I am working a little job. I had a little job down on Park Avenue, a little store job, and I'm starting to, you know, move up now in the workspace. I started going to different places looking for jobs, and I ended up at Pace University, and I got a great job there. Went to college, you know. But I just want to backtrack a little bit. When I arrived here, I went to high school, and I dropped out because I really could not deal with the shock of the culture. You know, first of all, it was so, you know, it wasn't as disciplined as our schools were. It didn't have the Roman Catholic, you know, whip behind it, and I couldn't deal with that. You know,
so it was wide, it was open, and you had all these choices, is what you're saying.
I couldn't handle it, you know, and I didn't have parents like my father worked all the time. My mother's in Guyana, so it's not like I came here and if I came home, my mother would be home. So I started, you know, I didn't go to school. I would get dressed and pretend I was going to school, wait for everyone to leave and come back in the house and play music all day.
Really?
So that's, you know.
So there were lots of liberties, and the structure of your family was not there. Your mom, who really kept everything together, is not there anymore.
And then my father's working. The immigrant parent is always working, never knowing what the children are doing. So, and then my brothers and sisters were in their own thing. They were in college working and stuff like that. So I was pretty much left on my own. And I was still very young. You know, I wasn't experiencing anything.
Of course.
Yeah.
So you come from this sheltered life almost in Ghana, even though your family is very artistic and you're a part of that culture in Ghana, but you come here into New York and you're thrown into a school system, I'm guessing you don't have a lot of friends. You come
Not at all,
home,
no.
there's really no one to talk to
No.
about what's happening, what
Yeah.
this experience is, right?
And then the weather, you know, the sun is shining
Tell
and you
me
step
about
out
the
there
weather.
and it's like 10 degrees. And
Oh,
I'm like, oh
yes.
my God.
Yes.
You know, I mean, now I love the winter, but it was really, really a transformation for me that I was not ready to handle.
Right.
you know?
It's shocking, right?
It
And it's
was
brutal.
an immigrant experience, like really
Yes.
coming from, you know, the brown skin experience, man, coming
Yes.
from the hot lands to the cold lands.
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember coming
Yeah.
here and having a very similar experience.
Yeah.
I had finished high school and I went straight to college, and
Yeah.
that was a very daunting
Yeah,
experience
it
world for
is.
me.
Yeah.
So okay, so you dropped out of high school and you're working a little bit, and you're who's buying the weed for you at this point?
Well, weed was always like, you know, friends always gave you weed. Weed was cheap, you know, but not like today, you know, right? You got to pay $100 for like something decent. But no, in those days, you had friends and they would just hand you an ounce.
Really?
You know, if you
So it's
played your
very
guitar
easy.
and you sang a little
Yeah.
bit, and you know, they would like, "Hey, I take it." And people shared drugs in
Yes.
those days. They
Yes.
shared their marijuana. Wasn't a, you
Right.
know,
It was like a communal
a-
type of
yes,
atmosphere.
yeah.
So okay, so you're working at Pace, you're playing your music, and are you feeling at this point the emotions of what's going on at home, or do you feel that you've sort of escaped it a little bit?
Well, I think what, you know, as I reflect back, I don't know, I do reflect on my life, but I don't get trapped in it anymore. I think that when you grow with pain, when you're a little child, that pain grows with you. It doesn't stay as a little child's pain,
Right.
right? As you grow and your life changes, the pain changes, but it's still pain.
Right.
And it becomes more and more in you. And so all the things that I've experienced as a little girl, the abuse and the violence and the aloneness and the isolation, it grew with me because it never stopped. You know?
Of course, it doesn't magically go away.
It doesn't go away. It was never processed. You know, no one ever came to me as a little girl and said, learn to love yourself. No one ever tells children that. No one ever came to me and said, well, you know, make sure your organs, you're good to your organs. You know, no one says that. You always have to love someone else. Respect your uncle, respect your aunt, go and kiss this person, show. But they never taught you to really respect you. And you
value you.
And value you. So, you know, you grew up with these, you know, you grew up with these pressures and this loss of who you are, you know?
So you're feeling within yourself fragmented
Yeah.
in many ways as a
Yeah.
young girl, not really understanding who Chitra is, right? Her true value, her
Yeah.
light that she has, that I see that you have today. So you're going through, you're navigating this world. And talk to us about the day that you decided, or was it a conscious decision? Walk us through the part of you are now smoking weed, you're doing your music, but you're now progressing into a different, stronger type of drug. Can you talk to me about that day, that moment where you decided to do what?
Well, you know, addiction is a progressive disease. It's a disease. And it doesn't stay the way you want it to. Like everything else, it becomes progressive and it becomes more destructive. Some people, it happens really quickly to. Some people are what you call back burners. You know, they wait until they're like 49, 50, and next thing you know, they're doing all kinds of stuff. But mine was quick. You know, I jumped straight in with both feet. I started mixing with a lot of, I don't like to use the word mixing. I made my way into the world of a lot of jazz musicians in the Lower East Side. I went into the Lower East Side because I thought that world was like really, you know, where I wanted to experience the art. And it was not your conservative lifestyle. And I was always a nonconformist. I always fought against the norms of society because I saw what it did to my family. I saw what it did to my aunts and my uncles, forced into marriage, abused by their husbands, you know, the women not given opportunities to go to university, right? All the guys are running off all over the world and, you know, we're supposed to be getting married. We're like a product, you know, and these things, you know, you grow up with all these like conflicts inside of you. So I went into that world where it was absolute freedom, the art world in the Lower East Side, and I met someone there, and he was a musician, and we connected with our music. Now, all along now, I'm really moving with my music. I'm performing, I'm recording, I'm composing, I'm meeting people. We're, you know, really moving in the village, in the West Village. I've performed at La Mama Theater. All these things are going on. And then...
How old are you at this point?
I'm in my 20s now, right? I'm in my early 20s.
Okay.
And I'm really moving fast with the music. And, you know, time is going, and then I start doing coke. I meet people that are doing coke. But the people that did the coke were not the artists. They were the business people.
So
right?
this is in your professional life, sort
In
of.
the professional
is how you
life.
get exposed
Yeah.
to cocaine.
So then I move into the corporate world, advertising world, and then, you know, that's the drug of choice, and you fall into that. And then that never left. That was I became, you know, and I just want to say something. Not because you smoke and you do coke means you're a drug addict, or you drink yet you're an alcoholic. No, a drug addict is a unique individual with certain issues that have not been processed. We cannot handle life, right? So we become destructive. Not everyone. If someone could go and, you know, do coke for the weekend and get up and go to work and feed do everything they're supposed to do.
Just the way some people have a few drinks on the weekend.
Right. Not because
Right?
you drink means you can get drunk on the weekend. That doesn't make
Sure.
you an alcoholic, you
Right.
know. But all the things that I was feeling, right? And, you know, there's still a lot of secrets that I carry. Secrets keep you sick. And I'm not going to talk about them today. But these things started to really be awakened in me. And even though the drugs were burying it, the guilt of the drugs and the shame was making those secrets like really coming up.
Magnified.
So you had to do more drugs to press it down, you know, because once you suppress something, it's going to rise. It's like a people. You suppress them, they're going to rise up, you know. So that went on for a while, and, you know, I worked and I went to college and I did everything, paid rent, you know, lived a normal life, thought I was great.
So on the outside, your life
Everything
seemed normal?
is great, yeah.
Everything is
very
great.
successful, making good money, wearing really nice clothes, moving with, you know, some cool crowds and stuff like that.
But on the inside?
But on the inside, the addiction was growing. And while now I would go out with you and party, you would go home, but I would stay, you know?
It was never enough.
It was never enough for me.
You were just feeding this demon.
You had to, once that demon is awoken, you have to feed it. You know, we read of those mystical, the dragons in the cave, and they have to be fed people, and the whole village would sacrifice like a virgin.
Right.
Always a virgin, right?
Right.
No, I don't know why not.
Might have been difficult to find, but yeah.
No, in those days they found them, right? So that's the dragon. You have to feed the dragon. Once that dragon grows in you, and it becomes, you become aware of it, and it consumes you, you got to feed it. So then I meet a guitarist, and he and I become involved, and then he gives me my first hit of heroin.
What was that day like? Tell me, you're sitting there, you're playing guitar with this guy. He's somebody you care about, right? And he says to you, hey.
Well, we talked about it a lot.
Did you?
And I knew it was around, and I knew that it was serious, you know.
Before you took it, Chitra, were you seduced by it? Like, did you think that this was something I would like to try,
No,
but you were afraid of
absolutely
it?
not. No.
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 Okay.
I knew that it existed, but I didn't know the symptoms of it. I didn't know that people around me on it until we were working on some music one day, and he had it, and he said, why don't you try it? And it's a very bad experience.
Tell me about it. Tell us about what that was like.
When you take it, everything in your stomach turns. It's like a violence that erupts and you puke. Everything. You just lean over. It doesn't matter where you're at. You will puke.
So you're physically ill.
Physically, it takes you down first.
How did you take the heroin?
You
How is
sniff
it taken?
You
sniff it.
But yeah,
All right.
just like Coke,
Yeah.
but very little.
Okay.
And it takes you down. And then once you're down, that passes, and then you're in a euphoria.
So
And
that's the good feeling that comes with it.
I was like, well, God, where were you all my life?
You
know?
thought that.
Yeah. And that went on for 15 years.
From the day
until-
that you fell in love with heroin,
Yeah.
you did not stop taking it for
15 years. That's a long time.
It's a long time.
It's a long time, and I lived to use, and I used to live until I got sick and tired of being sick and tired. And it really took me into worlds that we don't have the time to talk about, but manipulation, dereliction, devastation, just absolute destruction.
Where is your family at this point? During these 15 years, are you with your family, going in and out of their lives, or are you completely away?
I was in and out briefly. I would come in. You cannot leave your world. When you become an addict, you must stay close to your drug, right? Nothing comes between you and your addiction. No one, I'm telling you, if God came down to me in my addiction and said, Chitra, I could show you a better way, I'd be like, not right now, I just need my hit to get well.
How often are you using at the height, at the peak of your addiction? How much are you using? How often?
It depends. It depends because you're physically sick now. You're using, you have to get well. You cannot get out the bed unless you get well. So it could be, a bag of heroin is $10, by the way, right? I don't know if it went up, but
Okay.
Your body becomes immune to the doses that you're taking. And then, you could go from 1 bag to 2 bags. But, I was always struggling financially with it. So my habit was like about 4 bags a day, 2 in the morning, 2 at night. And that was just not getting high. That is just to cut the Joneses. That's just to stop the diarrhea, stop the shakes, stop the throwing up, stop the dryness of the eye, stop the aching of the ears, stop the burning of the nose, and your teeth hurting and your gums are all like,
So this drug is to make you feel better. This
so you can get up.
So you can get up and
and
function.
go and get the high.
And go get the
Get
high.
the money to get the real dose that's going to put you in the high.
So you're sick from not having it.
Right.
And then you're sick from having it.
Yes.
And then you get to a different level where you're feeling good.
You're feeling good.
So there's this whole process that has to happen.
It's like it's the same thing over and over on a daily basis.
So you wake up in the morning, Chitra, and your first thought is, I can't really get out of bed. I'm hurting. Everything is like you just described. And I've got to get my fix.
And you do go down the dark streets, right? And my days, you went down the dark street.
So Chitra, we were talking about the waking up in the morning, being completely sick, getting that fix to feel better, and then getting to this place of feeling connected to what? What is that feeling that you're going for at all times? This good place that you get into in your head?
It's a place where you feel nothing. You're in the place of darkness, and you're sort of levitating in this, universe, like you're the only one on the planet. And thank God there's no one there to bother you. There's no emotions to feel. You don't have to report to anyone. You don't have to explain yourself, all the dynamics of the family, all these things, social norms, all these things are like no longer part of your world. You are now alone in your world, okay? It's a place, and you're not feeling bad about it. It feels good.
Feels good to be alone.
It really feels good to be alone, and because you have no pain, you're numbing everything, right? Everything is numbed until it goes away, and then it comes back like, yeah.
At this point, are you still blaming your dad? Are you blaming the world? Are you one of these people that says, I've got to escape this pain and this world that I live in, and it's because I'm going to blame my dad or my mom or someone that has done me wrong? Is that why I'm here?
Yeah, because you are trapped in your past. As a little girl, I never grew up in terms of the emotions. I relived those moments of running with my mom or my father hitting my mom or beating us randomly like we're dogs in a yard. and you're chasing them out. So those things, you know, you have to be taught how to let go of those feelings, you know. Mine manifests itself in addiction. Other people's manifest themselves in some sort of craziness that they do. They either torture their children, right? Or they torture themselves, or they develop habits like gambling, right? They develop other destructive habits. But, you know, it's all different, you know?
Do you think that you chose to hurt yourself versus what you just said, instead of you could have possibly had a family and been as dysfunctional as your parents were? Do you think that you just took on the pain of dealing with it within your own self? Your destruction was all about
That's
you?
a good question. That's really good. I like that question because I think one of the reasons why I never really got married or wanted to have a family is that what I saw marriage to be in my family. And, you know, I mean, my family, my aunts and uncles are very educated people. And they married people that provide. My mother's sisters were all educated, all talented. They weren't like, you know, people that didn't know. And they all married abusers, right? But good-looking men, but they were all abusers, you know? And I didn't want to inflict that pain on my family. I was afraid, really, because I didn't know who I would be. I didn't know what would come out of me if I had a family, you know? And there are times when, in relationships, I've noticed some traits in myself that could pop out, little ugly, the breezes that's ugly head. And I sort of locked that down, and I said, you know what? I had to heal me. Before I could marry or fall in love with someone or make a life, I've fallen in love many times. I'm constantly falling in love with people because there's so many great people you meet. But in terms of connecting and establishing a life with someone, I couldn't do that until I got healthy. How am I going to help you when I'm like all messed up? And you can't come and help me because you wouldn't even know where to go to help me. That's a place that you're going to just drown. And I'll take you down with me real quick, you know? So I consciously made sure that I never really got involved. Not to say I didn't have people that really loved me and really wanted to live with me and really wanted to have a life with me. But I didn't allow it to happen until, and I'm now healing. I can only say that today, sitting in this chair, that I have recently could say I found my prayer, you know? And the moment that I found my prayer was when I was dying. I was overdosing one day in my attic. And I was dying. And I remember I rolled off my bed and I was on the floor and I crawled. And I couldn't get to the stairs. And I know I'm dying. And I was like, you know what, God, I don't want to die. There's got to be a better way. And somehow or the other, I felt these hands pick me up and carry me. I could tell you exactly when it happened. It was February 2nd, 2009 or 8. I think it was 2009. And it carried me, and I saw this light. And I don't know how I ended up back on my bed. But I woke up the next morning, and I was alive. And that's when that's when the desire to stop using was planted in my heart. And then I went through AA, I went through NA, I went through counseling. I still dibbled and dabbled in the drugs. I went for 5 straight years of intense treatment. I was in rehab for 6 months, right? It was a great rehab. It was like a country house, but it was rigid. It was so rigid. You wake up in the morning and they hammer you day in and day out. But I needed that. I needed to clean my brain out. And
So Chitra, I just want to go back a little bit to, would you consider that moment when you're crawling on the floor your lowest moment?
Yeah. I've crawled on the floor before,
right?
But, you know, it's usually for a glass of beer or something. But no, that was death.
That was death.
I was going to hell.
And you're completely alone.
And I'm alone. There's no one around.
And you have this incredible experience.
Yeah.
Because you're sort of you're begging for help at this point.
Yeah.
And you don't know how you find yourself back on the bed. Some strength.
I only remember the Holy Mary Even though I was raised a Hindu, you know, I went to Roman Catholic school, but the only person I could remember, I couldn't remember any of my, you know, ancestral, and she was the only person I remembered. I was like, oh, Holy Mary, please, you know, don't let me die. I'm not that, you know.
Yeah.
I'm bad, but, you know, I'm your daughter, help me out.
Yeah.
And that's my experience I had. And that was the beginning of the journey to recovery.
That was your turning point.
My turning point.
So for 6 months, you're in a rehab. You're in a rehab center?
Yeah.
And you're just rigidly detoxing.
Detoxing, sick. It was bad. It was really bad. And I want to backtrack a little bit. I have detoxed before. I did try to get clean several times. And as soon as I came back into my world of drugs, I went back and used.
Would you attribute accessibility to drugs, the friendships, the lifestyle?
People, places, and things, definitely.
People, places, and things.
Yeah.
If we can talk a little bit about the people that are listening to us and maybe have someone in their life that is possibly abusing or using this type of drug or any type of drug that's altering their lives in a significant way, what would you say would be some of the signs that we should look for if someone is in trouble and they cannot help themselves? Can you just tell us a little bit about that?
Well, the first thing, I think one of the things is they're going out a lot to places that they shouldn't go. Like, you know, they wouldn't tell you where they're going. Like, if I'm going to a restaurant, I would say, Nadia, I'm going to, I don't know, the Hibiscus. You know, I'm going to have dinner. But if you ask me, let's say I'm your daughter, and you say, Chitra, where are you going? I'm not sure. I'm going to be back shortly. Those are signs.
Being
right?
evasive.
Evasive.
Having secrets.
Secrets. Disappearing for hours on end, right? You have to look at their pupils, right? They have pinned pupils as a definite sign of drug use. Isolating in the room, right? Money, check their bank accounts, check your money in the house. You're not going to notice $20 is missing if you're a person that has a lot of money around, but you keep checking, you'll see. Money things, jewelry will be missing. Little things, it starts with little things, but then, you know, it gets bigger, you know.
So Chitra, you go through this recovery, the final time, and you're successful, and for 5 years you're going to meetings, you're just constantly focused on that you want to be clean, and you want to find your light again, right? I know personally that one of the things that have gotten you through a part of your recovery is your music.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And talk to us a little bit about your music and what you do today as this recovered person. And I know it's a constant recovery, correct?
Well, you know, my family had a lot to do with my recovery. They prayed a lot for me. My brother, when I came back one time, briefly, my brother died, and I came back for the funeral. I went to Shiva's house, and I saw a portrait my brother had done for me. And he didn't know I was coming that day. I showed up unexpectedly, and there was like all this incense burning in front of a garland of flowers
on your
my
picture?
Portrait.
As if you're not there.
Yeah, like they're praying, like this. And I walked there, I was like, oh my God. And he turned and he looked at me, said, rather the same thing, my sister. She sang my songs because she said, singing your songs was my prayer I put out there to bring you back. So there was all these things going on, people praying. People in the recovery program, women and men that have been so kind to me, you know, the AA people, the NA people, society was good, the government was good to me because they gave me food stamps to live on. You know what I mean? The taxpayers made it happen, right? So it was coming from all angles. Once the decision was made, it was like the door opened and the floodlights came in, you know. And it was very hard. The journey coming back was hard. But the music, the prayer brought me back. And I never picked up my guitar during those 15 years.
You never played your music?
Once I stopped. I couldn't sing. What am I going to, you know, the monsters don't like to hear sweetness. They like that, you know, that growl. You know, they don't want to hear the prayer, you know. So then my sister came to Philadelphia. Yeah, she came and she brought this guitar for me. Right? This is her Fender that she's had almost 30 years and gave it to me because I sold my Guild.
Of course.
I had an amazing guitar. I sold that, you know, for God, a little bit of money, you
To,
know,
to get
to
high.
get high. I sold everything to get high. Yeah. So when she gave me the guitar, she came, and slowly I came back to the family, and I made my way back to New York, and you know, meeting good people here, and then I started to give to the community my services. Like anybody can ask me to go and play, I will go and play. I'm not a diva. I'm not a performer. I am sharing my prayer with people when I sing. You know, people always say, "Oh, well, you know, where are you playing? When did you become professional?" I was never professional. I'm a songwriter, and I sing and I share with people. There are people out there that are sick that you don't know who you're helping.
Absolutely.
You know, but if you go up there as a diva, who are you helping?
No one.
Your ego.
Yourself.
You're blinded by your own ego. How are you going to help someone sick in the audience? They pay $20 to come and see you, and you can't even share a prayer with them.
That's right.
You know?
Yeah.
That's how I see it.
That's incredible,
Yeah.
Chitra. I have to say that I can see your light and I feel your light, and I
Thank
know
you.
that there were 15 years of where your light was dimmed, right? And I am just so happy that you are here and that you are well. And I'd like to say to whoever's listening that there's always hope, and you're living proof of it. I know you've written an amazing song that I've heard myself, and I would love for you to play a little bit of it just to share it with us, because it's inspirational, and it's a song that you've written,
Yes.
and it comes from a place that is deep within you.
Yes.
So if you don't mind, would you?
I would love to play it. You know, we always, in our cultures, you know, before the Western world became like patriarchal, you know, the mother was always the goddess that we went to, you know, we are her daughters. And I always felt like the Holy Mary is the mother, as Mother Lakshmi, you know, and Mother Ganga. And, you know, we have mothers in our Hinduism and stuff like that. But all cultures used to worship the mother. And I don't know how it was removed, but we need to bring her back,
Yes.
right? Because the father is somehow, you know, it's too much for him.
Yeah.
Right? So let's
Yeah.
bring the mother back.
Yes.
Right?
Let's bring the mother back.
So this is called Christian Mother. Holy Mary, Mother of God, forgive me. I didn't mean to diss this life you gave me. All I ask is that you forgive me. All I ask is that you have faith in me. When I was born, I didn't know where I'd be. Knew I'd always walk these righteous streets. But this life is such a mystery. And what I see, how it frightens me. Oh, Christian Mother. Oh, Christian Mother. Holy Mary, Mother of God, forgive me. I didn't mean to diss this life you gave me. All I ask is that you forgive me. All I ask is that you have faith in me. When I was born, I didn't know who I'd be. Knew I always wanted to be somebody. But now my life is just a mystery. And all my friends, they have forsaken me. Oh, Christian mother. Sing with me now. Oh, Christian mother. Same thing. Oh, Christian mother. Please forgive me.
Forgive me.
Oh, forgive me now.
Forgive me now.
Oh, forgive me.
Forgive me.
Oh, forgive me.
Forgive me.
That was beautiful, Chitra. I'd like to just finish up by giving out some information for those of you who have a pen and paper. You may want to take this information. For the New York Drug Hotline, the number is 866-872-6790. Again, it's 866-872-6790. And there's the Narcotics Anonymous, which is 212-929-7117. Again, it's 212-929-7117. For those of you who may be struggling with a drug addiction, or someone you love that may be struggling with a drug addiction, these are places that you can turn to for some help. I think just to close, I'd like to say that drug abuse is an illness more than anything, and it should be treated with love and compassion. I think that the trauma that addicts feel is isolated, and they feel completely alone. And if it's one thing that we can do is hold each other close and try to get through the struggles that we face together, because we're all affected by drug abuse. I'd like to turn this back over to Mark Anthony.
Thank you so much for that. That was excellent, excellent. Chitra, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah.
We will continue this conversation. Chitra, thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Nadi, thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Nadi.
And
Thank you,
you'll be
Chitra.
doing some more co-hosting with me on future segments.
I hope so.
Did you have a good time? Did you like
it was great. It was wonderful
Okay.
to do this. Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us in conversation with Mark Anthony. Take care and see you next time. Good night.